So there's been a lot of commentary recently about the Reeves sisters and why it is that they hate private education so much. Yes, I know, Stanley. Uh, it's Ellie Reeves, when asked if she could be Prime Minister for a day, what would she do? She didn't say, find a cure for cancer or world peace. She said, I'd abolish private schools. If that is the top of your agenda, that says an awful lot. And it says more than just I don't like private schools. That comes from somewhere. That's not just an ideology. That comes from somewhere deep inside. And when you start to look at the psychology behind that, you get some of the answers. So for Rachel and Ellie, they both say they were brought up in a Labour household. Their father was a staunch Labour supporter. Same with Keir Starmer. And Rachel will cite a time when her dad showed the girls a video of Neil Kinnock and said, this is who you vote for. And so they did. And she says, so we did. So from the age of 16, her and her sister were part of the Labour Party. Now, this is interesting for lots of reasons, but let's have a look at what was it that made them want to be Labour supporters. Because that's quite a heady mix at that age when you're trying to work out exactly who you are and what you like. It's where we're experimenting with makeup and hairstyles and piercings and tattoos and language and identity. We're experimenting with all of these things. Yet for the Reeves sisters, they were being told what they were. They were a product and it was Labour. And this is where your conditions of worth come in. So I'll give you an example. If you've got a child and they're running down the pavement in front of you and all of a sudden they fall over and they hurt their knee, what do you say? Do you say, come on, you'll be all right, up you get, don't cry, be a brave boy? Or do you say, oh, bet that hurt, come here, let's have a look. Oh, yes, ow, that's a big ow. Now, if you say the first one, what you're saying to that child is, don't cry, be brave. And then when they're brave, you give them validation. You go, yes, good boy, well done, you were so brave. And so the child learns that to be brave means that mum is really proud of them. So they must carry on being brave so that mum is really proud. If you'd gone for the second option, where you say, oh, ow, that's not good. That looks like it really hurts. Yeah, I bet you're crying. Oh, darling, come here. Let's have a cuddle. What you're doing is validating your child's feelings. You're validating their experience. You're living it with them and you're saying it's okay. It's all right for that to have hurt. It did hurt. And I think this is where the disconnect starts, because if you have been brought up to be brave, you're going to start applying that to every aspect of your life. So if you were brought up to support Labour, you are going to apply that to every aspect of your life. And of course, at that time in their life, what was the biggest influence? The same for Keir Starmer. It was your education, wasn't it? And we all know that our friendships and our values and everything that surround us at those age are formed by our environment, which is schools and friends. And I think that's basically the nub of this, which certainly for the Reeves sisters, Keir and Bridget, I would say, I don't know yet enough about Ange, but in that formative time of their life, they were effectively indoctrinated to be Labour Party members. And so they took on those values of their parents and they didn't question them. They never did, because they knew that from that, they would get validation, and that's where their conditions of worth came from. So from now on in, their conditions of worth, they feel good about themselves if they're imposing Labour views, which is what they're doing on you and me. And the disconnect, the difficulty is when somebody opposes that. And so for Bridget Phillipson, when somebody opposes anything she's doing educationally, you can see she can't take it. She can't cope with that. That's not a condition of worth. That's not a value she's ever learned. She's learned that Labour's way is right. And that's what we must do. And if we don't do that, then they are wrong. She's never learned this gap in the middle, which is conflict, which is where you work through it. You sort it out. You have a think. For example, you might be watching this and say, utter bilge. And I'll see that in the comments and go, Okay, fair enough. Now, am I going to take that as a condition of worth to myself? Am I going to value myself by your comments? Or am I going to value myself by how I think I am? And I sort of think I'm doing an all right way of explaining this. Too many words, but you know me and my neurodiverse brain, that's how I am. But I'm not going to live by your words because I've got a strong enough sense of self that I'm okay with what I am and who I am. But that's because I was afforded a freedom to be who I am and what I am. I came from a background where my parents did, allow me the freedom to experiment with all of that. And you can see very clearly here with the Starmer, well, with Keir, with the Reeves sisters, and with Bridget Phillipson, they did not have that. They grew up being told that their worth and merit would come from their Labour values. And that is, in my humble opinion, a massive issue and a bit of a problem. But we've spent far too much time on that. I am having the housewife's facial, which is absolute bliss. And I want to get the stuff in off the line. See, my values of worth were my mum never felt better than when the washing came in from the line, and I hold on to that, and I feel that, and I own that, and I make no apology.